Gimme, gimme, gimme a man after midnight. Alright, Merts, welcome to the CineMerts podcast with Max Colson and Levi Johnson. We're a couple of guys who like films, we get all the films, talk about films, we get them all, we pile them up into a massive, massive tower, they fall over, crush my wife to death. Today we watched Chronicle.
Yeah. I fucking love this movie. When I said to you about it last week, I was like, we should watch Chronicle because Akira's in the cinema. And this is basically the American Akira movie. Just low-key.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like, it's kind of to Akira. I don't know if you ever saw The Guest.
Ooh, no, I didn't.
I was going to say, it's kind of to Akira what The Guest is to The Terminator. Where it's kind of like, it's kind of disguising itself as something else. But when you peel back the layers, another example of that would be what The Hateful Eight is to The Thing. I mean, that one's really hidden. Because that's like a completely different genre, but...
Okay, I can see that. I would have said what Never Back Down was to The Karate Kid. Actually, it's probably too much, to be fair, actually. Like, that's almost the same movie. This isn't that much Akira, to be honest.
No. It's like one plot thread in Akira.
Yeah, literally like one.
Granted, it's, I think, the plot thread most people remember from Akira. I don't think many people remember the sort of the political stuff. And,
yeah.
When most people think of Akira, they think of
Tetsuo Kaneda.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it in a long time.
Yeah, me either.
Long time. And yeah, it still really holds up.
Some of the effects, they're not bad. It's just, that's an effect. It's just one of those.
Considering, I mean, it's like, about 8 years old now? So it's like, it's aged a bit. And it was a lower budgeted movie. It wasn't like a micro budget or anything, but it was pretty small. It was a studio movie. Before we get into any sort of, even the plot rundown, I'm going to issue a spoiler warning on this because I feel like in order to discuss the film meaningfully in any way, you kind of have to go through, you have to do spoilers.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say ahead of time, it's a good movie. I recommend it. If you haven't seen it, watch it.
Yeah, I would say watch it before.
And if you don't want spoilers, watch it and come back. I think it's on Prime. Could be wrong. If not, just buy it or rent it or something. There's plenty of places online you can do that.
Yeah.
And it'd be worth doing because it is a good movie. With that, plot rundown, pretty straightforward, really. It's mainly centers around this kid, Andrew, who's kind of, I guess, sort of typical kind of loser. Gets bullied, he's abused at home, his dad's abusive towards him. Even his cousin, who is his only friend, doesn't really like hanging out with him all that much.
Yeah, he kind of just does it for like a familial kind of responsibility.
Yeah, and he's kind of embarrassed of him in public places. When they go to a party together, his first instinct is to be like, okay, don't follow me around all day though. Just do your own thing. And while at that rave, I say rave, it's not really, but they happen upon a random hole in the ground that has some cancer rocks in it. That right. They bizarrely just are like, hey, this is fine.
It's like, whoa, it's making all these weird things, and can you feel it? It's like there's a weird energy coming off it.
It's making the camera glitch. It's glowing blue. Like, oh, Jesus Christ, guys. There are so many red flags here. I mean, you got so lucky. My first instinct would be, okay, this is like some sort of like uranium or something.
Yeah.
I'm getting away from this because I don't want to die.
The last
in
time
10 years.
I saw something that distorted a camera with radiation, it was the fucking demon core in like Chernobyl. Like they're like 30 seconds in there and you'll start to feel super sick.
But anyway, they get lucky and that rock gives them powers. There is no further explanation or even a question into what gives them powers. It's just like, okay, this rock gives them powers.
I quite like that. Most movies would try and do a explanation, or that's the B plot or something is, where did these powers come from? Blah, blah, blah. Or there's like a government organized. Nope, they just go, they try and figure out what was going on by going back there, and they're like, now the whole collapsed. Well, guess we might as well just throw baseballs around with our powers now.
Yeah, that leads into the next sort of, I guess, sort of middle third of the movie, really, which is mostly them kind of just fucking about, which is, it genuinely feels like a group of friends hanging out.
Yeah.
And it's just them kind of learning their powers, but not in like a serious way. They never have like we can do things with this, we can help people. That's never even discussed. It's like, hey, let's just fuck with people for a little while.
Yeah.
So they kind of go to a supermarket and do just dumb shit like scaring kids by like making teddy bears float over them and
trying to steal chewing gum out of people's mouths.
Yeah, and like stealing shopping carts or making shopping carts like run away from people, and it's just stupid shit. Which realistically, that's what you'd do, isn't it? I mean, if you got powers, it's the first thing you're gonna do is just start to just kind of fuck with people. Yeah. Before you do anything, like even consider benefits of it, you're just gonna be like, I'm totally gonna fuck with some people now.
Yeah.
But in the midst of doing that, Andrew accidentally veers a truck off the road. I think what he wants to do is just nudge it, and he goes way too far and makes it sink. Although I think this is the kind of first red flag of that character, is he has basically no remorse or care that he has accidentally potentially killed someone.
It was very interesting because obviously we watched it and we're both making notes, and it seemed like literally at the same moment where he's like, "What are you doing? You could have killed that guy." He's like, "So?" Like we both went to like the pad at the same time, started writing down. Like we both clearly wrote like, "Yeah, he's not good with emotions."
Yeah.
Like, empathy is not his thing.
So they set some rules, and they kind of scale back what they're doing, and again things start to actually go kind of okay for them, especially for Andrew. They all develop their powers. They learn to fly,
which I really like. Best flying, I think, in anything. I hate people flying around and they're like in t-shirts. They're like, "Hey, it's really cold. Let's wear a winter jacket and gloves. Maybe you should get an oxygen mask, but we can't have everything."
This was really like that age of janky flying as well, where like characters fly but they're kind of ragdolling a little bit. Hancock did it as well.
Yeah.
I kind of like it. It feels a bit more real. It's like wind and things like that actually affect them. It's not like they're just effortlessly.
It's like they're actually moving through something rather than being transported from one area to another.
They can't just be like, "Oh, I'm just flying," and that's it.
Well,
I mean, after
later on, it becomes second nature, like walking.
They explain it early on that it's like a muscle, and as they train, they get stronger and they get better. And
if they overexert themselves, they get a nosebleed.
And Andrew gets better than any of them because he's more committed to it. Probably partly due to the fact that he is a loner, the fact that other than hanging out with them, he doesn't have a social life at all. So all he has is this power. And it starts to go very, very well for him when he, he does a talent show. Like this magic
Steve sets
act.
him up for the talent show.
And he starts to do magic using his telekinesis. He then uses it to win beer pong, which apparently just sends the ladies wild, up until the point where you puke on them.
Hey man, some girls are into it.
I have no doubt. There is no fetish not accounted for.
I am genuinely now just imagining that he wasn't sick because he drank too much. No, that was definitely what he was going for. He's like, okay, so this is definitely my thing. He's like, I have to vomit on her, like otherwise it's just not gonna work.
He stumbled across some really weird porn online and just thought that's what girls are into.
He's like,
this is what you do.
Like, this is my thing, man. I'm rolling it. Like, let's see if she's into it. Like, high stakes, man. Go big or go home.
Oh man, yeah. You know what? Fuck it. That's my headcanon now as well. But anyway, it doesn't pan out for him.
Surprise.
And that's when things start to go a little bit south, I guess. His dad, who is abusive to him anyway, well, basically is just being the same abusive asshole he's always been, although this time it's
It just
you've been spending all this money,
it comes at a really bad time for him. Things are going bad in his personal life, and then his home life is still shit. So it kind of
so he attacks his dad, and then goes to chill in a thunderstorm. And at this point, I guess, is where they established that they're all, the three of them who get the powers are all linked.
Yeah.
So Steve, made by Plykel B. Jordan.
That was crazy how that came out.
Plykel. Well, if I ever have kids. Yeah, Michael B. Jordan, like when he was about 12, I mean, he's a fucking fetus in this movie. He goes to talk to him while he's chilling in the thunderstorm up in the clouds, and they get into a bit of an argument because he just wants to be left alone, and I guess Andrew hits him with lightning, or he just gets hit with lightning. It's not super clear.
I think it's implied that the lightning is because of Andrew.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was specifically intentional. I think he potentially tried to lash out in some kind of way, causing the lightning strike.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if his powers are kinetic, I mean, lightning's caused by kinetic energy, so it could just be that he's... I mean, like, he'd have no experience of doing that before. So the idea that this movie's quite grounded in that people don't tend to just pull powers out of their ass. It tends to be worked towards. So for him to just suddenly have lightning powers would be weird. So I think it's either incidental or he does it accidentally without...
Yeah, I think he managed to affect somehow lightning that was there. Like, obviously the air is very charged. Maybe he found a load of energy. He's putting off a lot of energy, and maybe he was able to direct it or something. Let's not over-science it to figure out how it worked, but I think it's implied they had something to do with it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Either way, Steve ends up dying.
Major bummer.
Yeah,
I was super salty about that. Like, super salty. Yeah. I saw this in the cinema, and I was like, this whole movie's ruined. I'm walking out.
So then, I guess he just starts to become a lot more callous, Andrew, after that point.
Yeah.
Even though he seems to have pretty genuine remorse over...
Well, it's quite interesting because even in the whole thing, well, obviously the three of them together, Matt, Steve, and Andrew, Steve and Andrew actually seem to have actually become friends. Matt is a bit more separate. He is kind of doing his own thing. He's trying to date some other girl, whatever. I think it's ultimately really telling when, Steve shows up to the fact that, Andrew's freaking out, and he shows up, whereas Matt, his cousin, the guy who should have shown up, just didn't because he was hanging out with some chick.
Yeah.
And it's established that Steve has got a girlfriend, or had a girlfriend. So it's like, what the hell, man?
Yeah. Steve, throughout the whole thing, to be honest, Steve is sort of shown to be the better friend. It's not that Matt doesn't care about Andrew, he clearly does, but he's just got a lot of other shit going on.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have much sense of perspective as far as this is concerned, I think.
Yeah, I think it's more of a lack of perspective rather than... Because, I don't know, man, Steve's probably got more stuff going on, in all honesty. Like, he was running for, like, school president, he's doing, like... He's in, like, a sports team. He's got, like, some other crap. Like, he's got a girlfriend. Like, guy's basically doing everything. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Andrew, when he becomes more callous, he starts to... I guess first it's, there's some kids taking the piss out of him for throwing up, which is a little bit like, they know his friend just died, right? Like, I know... This is like one of those things where, like, movie bullies tend to be worse than real life bullies. I tend to find that, like, especially when we're talking about kind of that sort of random bullying where it's not super targeted. Yeah, when there's like real shit going on, they tend to be like, yeah, you know what, we'll leave it. We're not going to be, because as far as they're not trying to be assholes. They're just usually trying to be funny, usually trying to show off to other people. So it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit high end. Regardless, he uses his powers to rip this dude's teeth out, and then does this weird, creepy like analysis of the teeth.
Yeah, that was I like that because it kind of shows how deranged he's kind of become. He's like, look, I was able to pull out his teeth, and this is the form I used, and like, ew.
And it's super like unemotional as well. Like he's like, so this one I think because it was more direct, came out a lot cleaner, whereas this one's a little chipped. Like,
yeah,
it's like, he's not even thinking of this as like hurting people. This like something else now.
Becoming very dissociative.
Yeah. So there's this B plot that doesn't get a huge amount of focus, but it's always kind of there in the background. Is that his mum has some sort of chronic illness. I'm not sure if they specifically say what it is.
No, they don't.
But it's she's got some severe illness, and she needs this sort of medication. But American healthcare.
That's what I literally wrote down. I was like, America's healthcare sucks.
Yeah.
Socialized medicine is literally the only thing that makes sense. It is awful.
It's inexcusable. Especially when you consider that there are countries that are dirt poor that manage to do it.
Yep.
Dirt poor.
Mm-hmm. Cuba,
like Vietnam.
Yep.
Like there are African countries that have socialized healthcare that are poor countries. You know what I mean? It's
just put your money into looking after your citizens. God, at no point should you ever say to somebody, "Oh, your medicine's going to be $700. Oh, you don't have it? Leave."
Yeah.
That's no.
I mean, hell, like if you work full time in this country and you have a prescription for certain things, you'll have to pay for it. You know what? It's not fucking much.
Yeah.
It's like minuscule amounts of money.
Like I'm okay with. Damn, I got to pay 30, 40 quid. Like, wait, you want me to pay $750 for life-saving medicine?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing?
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, because US healthcare, they've been priced out effectively. His dad doesn't work either. He's an ex-firefighter who got injured at work.
And he claims disability.
From Andrew's perspective, he's, I guess, kind of the way he looks at him is as some sort of like benefit cheat. We don't know if that's true. It's his perspective, which is obviously a biased perspective. He is not a reliable narrator as far as that sort of stuff would go. Yeah,
he's clearly ashamed of his dad.
Yeah.
I know there's a reason to be because he's violent, but it does seem that he's ashamed that he doesn't work, which is weird because, the guy clearly got injured on the job, so he's kind of served his country. He served the community, he's done stuff for it. At this point, it's not unjust. Now, I guess there's the thing of how disabled is he really, because he doesn't ever get shown to have any kind of
there is
issues.
That, but that doesn't necessarily tell you much either.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially in the tiny window of time that we see.
Exactly. Sometimes people can walk around and it's like, oh wait, no, but if I do this for more than 20 minutes, I'm fucked.
Mm-hmm. So where were we? So he needs money for the medication, so he decides to rob some drug dealers at first. These drug dealers are kind of, I guess, harass him while he's...
very briefly for a second.
Yeah, and so he goes after them. I guess they don't have enough money because, they're clearly like street corner drug dealers. These guys aren't rich. I even said while we were watching that would not be my first go-to if I was going to try to steal money. With psychic powers, I'd probably find an ATM out sort of somewhere that wasn't super populous and just kind of just rip it open a little bit. I mean, there's not going to be any fingerprints. You don't even need to get into any kind of confrontation.
Yeah.
You just do it, and then you can be gone before anyone goes. What are they going to do? Check the sky? Just fly. By the time the police car gets there, they're going to have no idea what the hell happened.
I will say maybe it has a little bit to do with his character itself.
Yeah, and I think
that little bit of bloodlust.
Yeah, also revenge, because these people have wronged him in some way, and that's clearly a major motivator for him. So it actually does make sense from a character perspective. So he then attacks he robs a
gas station.
A gas station. Using psychic powers and the ballsy fucking...
the fucking cojones on this dude,
this fucking
man.
clerk.
Like,
he's probably working fucking minimum wage.
It's not even his gas station, man. Like, he's like, I'm saving the capitalist overlords, like, equipment.
Fucking grabs a shotgun, goes after this kid. Again, the balls on this guy. I mean, he has no... What does he think he's going to do? The kid just, threw him with nothing.
Yeah. Imagine that, like, some dude rocks up to your workplace, shoots you with a Hadouken, like, blows you in the wall, and then, like, takes all the money psychically and is walking out. I ain't picking up no shotgun to shoot that guy. I'm like, fuck that. I'm going home, man.
Yeah,
like,
I got off lightly.
Like, I don't know what else is going to happen next.
Anyway, he does attack him. Andrew disarms him, but in doing so, sets the shotgun off and causes an explosion, hospitalizing himself and presumably killing the other guy. Then...
Yeah.
His dad comes to visit him in the hospital. Even though as far as he's aware, his son's in a coma, is just like, you're a piece of shit, you know that? Your mum's dead. And I was out looking for you. And even though clearly some bad shit happened to you and you are dying due to being hit by fire, you're selfish. You stupid burnt bitch.
Yep.
And this effectively starts the final act of the movie, which is Andrew's Akira rampage.
Yeah. And Matt shows up and is like, I guess I have to kind of fight you. Unfortunately, he never yells Tetsuo at any point.
No. Although I am glad that the film did at least deliver on one superpower fight. Could have easily not. Could have easily, done the smart movie thing of not actually doing that. No. This movie allowed itself some schlock. Yeah, they fight and
Matt is forced to commit a fatality.
He kind of cannibal holocaust. It's not really a cannibal holocaust. It doesn't go up through the ass, but it's
gets impaled.
He impales him. He hot fuzzes him. I need some ice cream. I was thinking that when I watched it. So yeah, the film is it's all shot in found footage style movie.
Like, it was one of the reasons actually why I wanted to talk about this movie, because I was like, why is this movie a found footage movie? It's so weird. Like, I think it was probably from when it came out. I don't know the actual date.
I think it was around 2012.
Yeah, because I know found footage was kind of big.
It was kind of at the height of that.
I think Paranormal Activity had come out or something as well.
I also, from what I remember, even though it was a low budget anyway, I think it was written as an even lower budgeted movie. Because I'm pretty sure at first their plan was to do it on an indie level. And then a studio was interested, so they got a bit of a budget inflation.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right on that.
Being that it was done on an indie level, I mean, there's a reason that a lot of horror movies really started to do the found footage thing, is because it's cheap. Found footage is a very, very cheap way to make a movie. But yeah, a lot of the time it doesn't feel super necessary. Some of it does link in with Andrew as a character.
Yes.
Because that narcissism of constantly having to document everything. I mean, one of the prime examples is in a way it could feel hokey, but it kind of doesn't. Is one of the first things he does on his rampage is grabs a load of camera phones to film him.
Yeah.
Because he's narcissistic. He's self-obsessed. I mean, let's be real. This movie is kind of a school shooter allegory, right? I mean, that's what it feels like.
Yeah. Like, I actually wrote down. I was like, I think this movie, I don't think at the time it was really a cultural movement. Oh man, I'm going to throw some people under the bus. Andrew is basically an incel.
Yeah.
And when he attacked Steve, I was kind of like, so the lesson is be careful when trying to help an incel, because like, even though you'll be doing like the really good stuff for him or helping him out, because when I was watching it, I was like, actually, Steve's a really good character. Like, he's a bit impulsive because for some reason he just jumps in a hole, But he is quite brave. Like when the truck crashes, he jumps in to save the person. And then, he's already major popular at school, but he's like, hey, Andrew, how about we do the talent show together? And the talent show is basically Steve on stage going, well, how is he doing this? And making Andrew look really good to increase his own like social capital within the school. So he's like, oh, this guy isn't trying to monopolize for himself. He's trying to make Andrew look good so that Andrew's life gets better. And then he shows up and he's like, hey, we've been hanging out a lot. Like, there's even been some scenes where it's just me and you. We're getting on. You're like, oh, okay. Like, maybe you can just talk to me about what's going on. And then he strikes him with lightning.
Yeah. Especially considering Andrew actually opens up more to Steve throughout the movie than he ever does to Matt.
Yeah.
And I think, that's definitely a part of it. Also, I think it kind of works. You said that like the incel thing is that never being able to shake off the idea that you're a loser. Even when you've started to get popularity, you've started to actually get some attention. You've realized, hey, you know what? I can actually be popular. Doesn't matter. Because ultimately, the thing that made them unpopular to begin with is that defeatist kind of attitude.
Yeah.
They can't escape that no matter what they do, and no matter how many people confirm to them that actually no, they're not a loser. If they see themselves as a loser, they're never going to stop being one.
Yes, exactly.
And that's definitely what he projects and also clearly what he feels.
I also did enjoy, like, I wrote that bit down, and then there's like the dark twist towards the end when he's like, so I've been online and I've been like reading around and I found out about this apex predator, which I kind of love because this is so incel, because incels are always like, I'm the worst, I'm such a loser, no one will ever like me, it's because I'm too smart and I'm better than everyone. And I was like, holy shit, like he actually is a really good allegory for an incel.
It's kind of crazy that this is kind of a pre sort of Return of Kings pre-Gamergate type thing.
Yeah, but I'm like, man's on QAnon like reading all this crazy shit.
Legit, that's how it feels. And it's that him feeling that he's a higher being, which again, to be honest, not only is the like the apex predator thing, it really runs parallel to incels and that kind of, I guess, online right-wing mindset. But also, it's the, I said before, it's like kind of like a school shooter allegory. It's kind of how people are with guns. It's like, this makes me strong, this makes me powerful. People who don't use guns, they're pussies, they're cowards, they're too scared to do this.
Yeah.
I'm more powerful than you because I have one. And that's not me being particularly anti-gun, but it's that attitude.
Yeah.
I'm powerful, you're not. I'm strong, you're weak. That comes from really nothing more than a willingness to cause pain to other people. Because more than the powers, that's what he's valuing.
Yeah.
The other two guys have powers, and he's like, well, I'm stronger than you. Which he is, because he's constantly trained, but he's trained out of a motivation to hurt people.
Yeah.
To be the strongest, to be the most powerful, because that's what he personally values.
Well, I think at first it's a little bit of an accident, because
he's naturally adept.
He's lifted. Well, I don't know if he's naturally adept. This is one of the things that I thought was quite interesting about it being a found footage. Because I was like, this movie has no need to be a found footage movie, except maybe this one, because he's always carrying the camera around. Later on, the movie kind of stops being a found footage movie because, Andrew has psychic powers. So he just psychically carries the camera around, allowing for it to basically just become a movie.
Yeah, I actually wrote that.
Yeah. It's like, so now we're just using regular shots. We've got some dolly shots in here. And
like crane shots.
Yeah, cranes. Okay, that's kind of interesting, but I do think that it suffers again. I guess that's where Andrew's strength comes from, because he's always using it. So he's like, I'm doing all this other stuff and carrying the camera.
Yeah.
So he's multitasking. I think that's probably why he gets a bit stronger.
It's probably a big part of it, because again, it's like a muscle. It's like training. So the more the more work you put in, the more you get out of it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
That in itself is a constant thing. It's constant work. So yeah, definitely. But either way, he has this. He is adept. He is better. And so yeah, at first it's not a case of him being wanting to cause pain, but as it moves on, that starts to become what he values.
Yeah.
Is his willingness to go further than the others, his willingness to
be
more.
In fact, he even says that.
Yeah.
Like, I actually really quite like Andrew and his character, like how he's been written. I noticed like right at the end of the movie, there's like a moment where he kind of has a twisted, warped sense of what his mother says. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I think they wanted it to happen. They just wanted him to say it. Because obviously she's dying. She goes out for lunch with him, and then she's like, Andrew, I want you to say this. Say that you're stronger than this. Say it.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, Mom, I'm stronger than this. And then at the end of the movie, he's while fighting superpowered against Matt. He's like, I'm stronger than this.
It's a little hokey. But...
Yeah, I was like, I see kind of where they were going. They wanted to get a perverted line, like a perversion of her encouragement to him.
There are moments where the film kind of forces its theme a little bit.
Yeah.
There's actually one really kind of on the nose moment where, okay, so Matt is a philosophy student. That's an established thing.
Right, yeah.
And there's one part where he's like, hubris, that's going to be where you fall down. And it's like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Like
they literally do go like it's a bit crazy. It's like, well, this is basically where it all goes downhill from here. Like, literally where it all starts going downhill. It's like, all right, Matt, maybe too much on the nose.
Yeah, it could have been done a little more subtly, especially like I say, considering how kind of grounded a lot of the film feels.
Yeah.
It's not kind of a hokey Hollywood type telling of this story. Not that the story is 100% original. This type of story has been done in terms of the kind of power mad.
Yeah. Well, a bullied person, abused, gets powers, then decides that they're going to use those powers for their own gain.
Yeah, I mean, it's standard supervillain.
Well,
origin, really.
Like, when I think about it as well, actually, maybe I'm implying a bit more than what is there, but I guess maybe you could say like there's the Tetsuo Canada connection, because Tetsuo resents Canada because Canada always saves him all the time and he's always there helping him out, and he's like, I feel weak in comparison to you, and I think that is kind of implied. Now, they don't go as far as to actually state that, but between him and Steve, I think it's a bit shared. That Steve's super popular, and for some reason, Steve is friends with Matt.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna put this out there. There is zero chance that the parallels between this and Akira are coincidental.
Yeah,
there is zero chance that there is no way that Max Landis and Josh Trank were not aware of Akira.
Yeah. Definitely.
There is an obvious anime influence.
Yeah.
In the way that rocks lift up while he's first levitating is like straight out of an anime.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. It's just taking inspiration.
It's a bit like nice try, Joss Whedon. Like, I've seen Outlaw Star. Firefly is just Outlaw Star.
Yeah.
You can't trick me.
That was so weird. When you said that, I looked over at your Blu-ray Firefly. Like, by pure coincidence, that's just where my eyes landed.
Yeah, man.
That is odd.
I do love Firefly, but I'm like, yeah, man. Like, it is Outlaw Star.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I say, it happens all the time. I love The Hateful Eight. It's the thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I actually think that's what's great about it. It takes a not supernatural, a sci-fi horror movie and turns it into a western. That's genius. I like that. I like when things are recontextualized.
Yeah.
And it is done with a sort of an ethos in mind. It's clearly it's clearly it's got its own identity. It's got its own thing. It's not just the typical like I don't know the US Death Note or some shit where it's just like, hey, let's just take this and pointlessly put it into a setting where it doesn't really make any sense.
Literally, like I was concerned. Well, they keep talking about it anyway. They keep talking that they want to make an American Akira.
It's such a bad idea.
I know it just wouldn't. It just wouldn't work.
No, the film is so rooted in Japanese culture.
Yeah, like the start of the movie is to do with another nuclear detonation or an assumed nuclear detonation, but like. Well, America's never had that happen. Yeah. Like, I guess they could recontextualize it perhaps with a 9/11 equivalent, but
because it still doesn't work. The thing is with Akira is that the theme running through Akira is that Japan constantly has to rebuild. It is constantly torn apart and rebuilt from the ground up. They're a country plagued by natural disasters. Yeah. By there were the nukes, and then after Akira there was the Fukushima disaster. It's a thing in Japan is that need to rebuild and start again, rebuild and start again. It's constantly the teetering on chaos, and then it's brought back, and but it could always go again any minute, and it's always another thing. And I think, especially when the nukes hit, that became a real source of anxiety in Japan. Is like this could happen again.
Yeah.
So, no, it's not translatable to any culture outside of Japan.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Not without changing it so fundamentally that you may as well just call it something else.
Like Chronicle.
Because that takes something that is an American problem, the problem of things like school shootings, which are very rooted in American culture. Do they happen in other countries? Yes. With that frequency? No.
No, yeah.
And, it's all well and good being like, oh, well, it's because they have guns. Well, no, other countries have guns. This is an American attitude problem. Yeah. It's cultural. There's so many strands going into it that it's like, it's hard to even place it on one thing. But it's so rooted in that culture. So to go in and kind of do this almost deep dive analysis of what creates these people is a really good way of taking that same type of narrative and doing something good with it, doing something that fits their culture, that fits their world.
Yeah.
That's what I feel that you should always do when you're looking at adapting something or taking inspiration from something, is to go, okay, how do we, this stuff's cool. How do we take this and
make it make sense
in where we are? Yeah,
where in the story I want to tell.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was kind of cool is earlier I talked a little bit about Andrew's relationship with his dad and that it is abusive. But one thing that I think is actually kind of cool is that Andrew is effectively doing the same thing that his dad did to him, which is taking his own pain and just taking it out on all the wrong people.
Yeah.
His dad abuses him, but throughout the whole thing, his dad is genuinely distraught at the fact that his wife is dying. And it's clearly tearing him apart. You hear him on the phone to the doctor, and he's in tears.
Yeah.
He's angry. He's distraught. And even when he comes to, visits Andrew in the hospital, again, he's broken up because of his wife dying, and he takes it out on the wrong person. Of course it's not Andrew's fault.
Which, it's interesting, like, Erin Pizzey is a British domestic violence worker, and she's done many talks on the domestic violence issue. And one of the things that she says is that domestic violence is a generational issue. You learn bad emotional management strategies from your parents. They would have learned it from their parents, and so on and so on. And it takes something specific to break that cycle. She wrote a book, I believe called Infernal Child, where she talks about her own struggle being stuck in that cycle, and how she was able to be brought out of that because she went to school and had like a certain teacher who mentored her essentially and helped her get through that and build actual means and ways of managing her emotions. Very obviously, Andrew's dad hasn't had this happen for him. Now, I don't know where how abusive he was or what it was like before, if he was abusive to his mother or anything like that. It doesn't really appear to be, but he's being abusive to his own son. So it's still translating over this way, and Andrew is unfortunately now internalizing that this is how you treat people, this is what you do, and he's not developing actual strategies.
To be honest, you can see it every time you go, and I'm sure you've seen it, I think everyone's seen it at this point. You go onto Twitter or Facebook or anything, and you see someone sharing some video of some kid bawling because they've just gotten their ass beat, or they're like, I saw one today actually of some kid being like made to hold his arms out in front of him, little kid, being made to hold his arms out in front of him, standing in the corner,
Jeez.
keeping his arms up. And there's tons of people going, this isn't abuse, this is just good parenting. My parents did this to me and I'm fine. It's like, you're liking a video of a child crying and sharing it. I don't think that's a good definition of okay. Because I'm not being funny, but I don't go out of my way to find shit like that.
Yeah. Wow. That's some fucked up shit, man.
Yeah. It's, it's the thing of like, it's weird what you'll justify. And even if you recognize what happened to you is abusive, that abuse in other forms won't register.
Yeah. There becomes a case where you become too close to see what you're really doing. Again, it's with domestic violence. You always have some reason why, yes, you may have hit them, but you're not a domestic abuser because, you were really angry or she did this thing. Oh no, like, I was just having a really bad day at work and everything all came together at one moment. No, like you have to be really vigilant and watch what's happening with you. It is interesting. Like I was looking at the lineup of like the characters again, going back to like how each of their interactions are. I guess Matt being closer to Andrew because he is his family. I think that's probably in his own way. He's created his own coping mechanism, which is kind of just to distance himself from Andrew. Maybe he knows Andrew has like a bit of a temper when they were kids, or like, he knows the family's got something going on. So there's that distancing. But like Steve, he doesn't have that. And this is actually something that happens in domestic abuse. You'll find that people who don't grow up with domestic violence can not understand the signs or the warnings that are there. They're not aware, and they think, oh well, maybe I can just help them, blah blah blah, like maybe I can fix this thing, and they get too close without realizing, no, you're being abused now. And they can get trapped in that cycle. And that's kind of where I was like, Steve was trying to help him out and didn't realize that he was getting drawn into like this abusive scenario almost. I like this film. It's got a lot of different things or different ways you can look at it. Like there's a lot of layers, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
whether they're intentional, I don't know.
As far as that, like the not recognizing it thing, because I can speak to myself. Like I didn't really recognize it for a very long time because I didn't sort of ever grow up around it, or it never, I was never like beaten or anything like that. I never saw it really, you know what I mean? Not in my own household, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where I didn't really get it, even though in retrospect there were kids who I knew that I was going to school with who absolutely were, and in some cases really badly. But and the funny thing is, what I thought at the time, what an arsehole, that kid's a piece of shit. He's getting into fights all the time. He's like, because that's, it can manifest in different ways. Sometimes you do get the super quiet, head down, never talk to anyone sort of thing, which is kind of like Andrew in this, until he gets that moment of power.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, sometimes that power's already given because, you know, the person who's been abused happens to be, for their age group or even just in general, kind of bigger and stronger than a lot of other people, and then they end up throwing their weight around more.
Yeah.
Because again, it's that I'm strong when I'm not there. I'm strong in this scenario.
Yeah. Very interestingly, that was one thing I thought was interesting. When his dad does begin to, like, he's grilling him for, he's like, oh yeah, you keep going out with your friends and I see you got an expensive camera. He gets him up and he punches him in the face. And at that point I was like, Andrew is so proficient with his powers at this point. Why did he let him punch him? And that was got to be a case of, it, like what you're saying, just in this scenario, he just felt that his dad had more power than him.
Yeah.
So he just kind of allowed it. Obviously, he then flips the script and then beats his dad up with his powers. But
look at when you get scenarios of, like, because that's the thing as well, you know, look at domestic abuse scenarios within relationships. Sometimes the strength dynamic isn't actually there in that sense. Sometimes the person doing the abuse is not the physically stronger of the two.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Look at when you get some, you know, big bloke being abused by a woman half his size. Like, it doesn't necessarily follow because it's about the emotional response. It's not about
it's not
the actual physical strength. It's about whether you feel you have power in that situation, which is a very different thing.
Yes.
So yeah, that actually does line up very well. And I think it also stands to reason that his real violence and dedication to becoming violent kind of starts when he realizes he can hurt his dad. Because once he realizes that, he's like, that's when he starts to understand that he's strong.
What was his first, just before, I think just before he attacks his dad, he also does something which this has got to have been intentional. It's the trailer shot. I remember the trailer. He uses his powers to catch a spider, and then he lifts the spider up, spreads it all out, and then just in one movement he like tears it apart at all its parts all at once.
Yeah. Which, me being me, I had a stronger emotional knee-jerk reaction to than him doing any of the people.
Yeah, that was like you punched a dog. You're like, ah, why?
I don't know if people hurt spiders. Spiders are useful animals that we should respect, because if we didn't have them, we would be overrun with flies.
Well,
do you really want that?
The main problem for that guy is, if he hadn't killed that spider and he just let it bite him, he wouldn't have been suffering from his fucking shit disease in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh, I forgot he was in there.
Yep. I was gonna say that's actually the first thing he does to.
Yeah.
No, that's the first time he kills a living thing. He breaks the other kid's teeth, I think.
No, that's after.
Oh, okay.
That's after Steve's died. Up until then,
Steve's kind of an accident.
Well, yeah.
Like,
but that
was his first purposeful.
It's an act of cruelty, though.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's just unwarranted, just pointless cruelty.
Yeah, and they say that, you know, killers, or people who commit murders, they often find, they were killing a lot of cats in the neighborhood and stuff like that. Like, they were torturing squirrels and they were hurting animals first and then
it's a often noticed sort of precursor, like everything from like serial killers to like just cruel people in general. Like it's because that's something weaker than you that you have full power over, and that there's no repercussions to you for doing. It tends to be the way it's first manifested. Again, it's that I'm strong, you're weak. Even in the most petty way possible, it's still it's a display of dominance. Just to yourself.
It's reaffirming of your own dominance.
I actually wrote kill a spider, I didn't even make it. It's just isolated.
I'm looking at my note that says like, the balls on the gas station guy. Going back to some of the camera stuff, like we were saying how obviously this is how Andrew trains his powers, is by lifting the camera around and doing other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Which was like, why is this found footage? And it's like, okay, this is kind of interesting, at least with the found footage now, because you know, you were finding a way to get excuses to have traditional god damn it, cinematic, there we go, cinematic camera angles in there.
Yeah, definitely.
And then the final fight happens. Now they establish ahead of time, like at like one of the parties, that someone else has a camera, and they cut to that camera angle.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay, so we're not necessarily just looking through Andrew's camera.
Yeah, any cameras. And at first they're using, like I say, he uses his powers to grab a load of mobile phones and film himself that way.
Yeah, and then there's security camera footage.
Yeah.
They find like a really, I noted it down. I was like, this is actually a really fun excuse for a camera angle shot. There's like a dude in the window going like, "Oh my god, honey, look at this thing is crazy. What's going on?" Like then they turn around and they're smashing into their room and they're like, "Oh god." I was like, that's actually quite an interesting excuse for because I like the shot. Oh, sorry, there was one shot that I just really liked.
Okay.
That was a cool way of doing reverse shot without having to ever change the shot.
Oh, I know exactly what shot you're talking about. Yeah. He's talking, Matt's talking to his, I guess, ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, this girl, Casey.
And he's talking to her, and she's filming everything for her blog, which they say blog the whole time. They never say vlog.
Yeah, I know.
But it was made in 2012. It was a different time.
Vlogs were totally a thing at that time.
They were totally. They were more popular then than they are now. Basically, when she opens the door, there's a mirror.
Yeah.
That's reflecting her the whole time. So there's no edits. It's just her camera filming him, but then her reflections in the mirror.
Yeah. So
it's pretty inventive way of doing it.
That was really nice. That for me, maybe not a scene of that length. If I was to like, but that is something I would totally rip off if I was to make a film. I wouldn't shoot it for that length though.
But no, it is a good, very good shot.
Yeah, but going back to where it kind of falls apart, and you kind of start asking, why is this a found footage movie? Because at the end of the film,
it just stops being one.
Yeah, it just stops being one. There's shots where the camera is just looking at Andrew on the ground.
Yeah, it's like when they abandoned the found footage part of District 9, except instead of being at the start of the movie, it's right in the final act.
This is like, just kind of, maybe a little bit, but pretend that we didn't drop it, because now these other scenes are definitely still from other cameras.
Yeah, because like right at the end, he's again, it's a shot of Matt filming himself against a green screen.
That green screen weren't good.
He's supposed to be in Tibet.
I think, ironically, it's probably just the fact that we got better used to seeing composited scenes. Because I remember seeing it in the cinema, and I didn't even question it. Watching it right there on my tiny ass screen, I was like, that shot looks like shit.
Here's the thing. You know what's crazy? Like, I don't consider myself an expert on any level, right? But like immediately, I was like, I know how I'd do that better. I'd just have it be snowing. Because then you have stuff in the background and in the foreground, which kind of disguises the jankier elements of it. If you don't have the ability to seamlessly do it, you find things that can disguise it.
I was a bit of an asshole. My actual thought was they should have edited in just a breath for him.
That also,
that was what bugged me. I was like, he's just in the studio. Like,
yeah.
So he
did. To be honest, he didn't even look cold. He's like full face exposed. He's like, it's fine.
Like, I'm just on this man.
But yeah, the abandoning of the found footage just during that final scene, because it's not even the whole scene; it's the last bit of the scene, basically.
Yeah,
and it's
just
really,
a couple of shots. They just cheat it.
But they're really blatant, especially right at the end of the scene when you see those close-ups of Matt's face, and it's like someone like the only way this would make sense is if someone literally was crouched down, filming this guy close up,
like while he's on the ground.
You know what's crazy? They could have saved it by just having a little news watermark on some of those cameras. And then I would have bought it. I'd have been like, okay, I've got a news crew there.
Guys zoomed in or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I think...
Because it only makes sense if it's being shot by professional camera people. Police body cams wouldn't make sense.
It's not the worst thing in the world. I think if you're just watching it, you're not really going to pay that much attention.
Well, I'm going to be real. I don't remember it. So I think it's one of those things when I first watched it.
When I first watched it, I was like, kind of. But like on this time around, I actively was like, I'm going to look to see if it happens. And yeah, it did. It's not the worst, random use of like shots and stuff.
No.
It's not the barrel sequence in The Hobbit, where for some reason they're like, quick, record like this barrel sequence on my old flip phone. Like, that aspect ratio will definitely work within a fucking movie. What's that? We're shooting this on 48 frames per second. Oh, yeah. This will still definitely work. Oh, God.
Oh, those movies were terrible.
Yeah, I was really salty about that. Like, the movie's got so much digital stuff, and then they just choose 3, like, random shit GoPro shots that look awful. They're, like, they've got digital artifacts on them. It was awful. Oh, God. Sorry.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think as far as those final shots are concerned, I think, to be honest, the reason I probably didn't notice them before is, I mean, you saw this movie in the cinema the first time. I saw it on TV, so I probably was not as focused. Also, I think I was watching it in the day, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to be anywhere near as focused, even though I was watching it intently enough, you know what I mean? Because I enjoyed the movie. But yeah, it's fairly obvious, at least if you're looking at it more analytically.
Yeah.
If you're not the sort of person who watches films analytically, I guarantee you probably wouldn't notice it.
Like, everywhere else in the movie, they're really consistent. Everything else is really good. It's just they just were like, we're just going to cheat it with a couple of shots.
Yeah.
Like, fair enough. Like,
yeah.
It is kind of just nitpicking at that point. I don't think there is any real major issues within the actual movie. I think everything's really solid.
No, like I say, other than a couple of little moments where I just think the kind of the
hammering it home.
The hammering it home elements of it, which aren't super bad. They're not like super bad. They're not terrible. It's just I don't know. I find that sort of stuff a little bit distracting, especially in movies that are more allegorical. I feel like if you're making a film that's an allegory, don't just kind of explain the allegory.
Yeah.
Kind of funny considering Max Landis also wrote Bright, which was a weird movie that decided to have an allegory and the thing it was an allegory for.
Yeah. Like, this is about racism, but the races will be to do with, like, magical creatures. But also
there's
racism.
Also extra racism. That movie was so bad. I was so salty about that film because I did like the premise. It kind of felt like, I don't know, like it could have been like, if it had been good, I could have watched it as like a prequel to like Shadowrun, where it's like, hey, it's like, there's technology and magic. This shit's cool.
Yeah.
And there's like, fantasy races and cool shit like that, and it's bad. It's just bad movie. It's just bad. There are fucking orcs with do-rags on.
Yeah.
Although I will admit, I do like the touch that orcs listen to death metal. I actually genuinely really like that. But other than that, the fact that orcs are just like Hispanic people, and then sometimes black people.
Yeah, they're like trying to maybe black code them, but maybe they can also be everything at the same time.
They're just the minorities.
Like,
orcs are the minorities, but also there are minorities. It's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. Don't even watch it.
It was a real shame again because I'm like, God damn it, Will Smith, will you pick a good movie to be in, please?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you're a really charismatic actor and I enjoy watching your films. Stop picking shit.
Yeah, it's funny. I said when the end credits came on that like this movie was kind of I don't know, peaking early a little bit because like Max Landis, I mean he was showrunner on the Dirk Gently Netflix series, which is really good. Other than that, like every movie he's made since has either been mediocre or just bad. And Josh Trank, I haven't followed that closely, but he did make the Fantastic Four remake, which, you know what's hilarious? And I feel this is actually quite relevant. You know the Fantastic Four movie is supposed to be set in the same universe as this, right? Which is weird because Michael B. Jordan's in it.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, like, do you think he was like, man, I don't know how I'm going to make this movie work. Get Michael B. That helped with the last one.
I mean, I guess it's like a loose universe, kind of like the Tarantino films share a universe, but they repeat actors, or like the Kevin Smith films. And that, I guess, less than like a Marvel type thing. But he was, subtly trying to incorporate elements from Chronicle into it, and not really that subtly, to be honest. Like, the thing that gives them their powers is clearly just, like, the same.
Yeah.
Which, this film has actually been oddly, I guess, influential as far as that goes, but it only seems to have inspired bad movies, because the Lionsgate Power Rangers movie also has, like, the Chronicle kind of thing. Like, it's almost the exact same origin story, except then they also have, like, Ep.5 and Zordon. So it gets a little bit muddled. But, like, the way it looks, the way stylistically it's done, is very reminiscent of Chronicle. And it's really bizarre that it seems to have had this weird little legacy for movie studios that want to look cool but don't want to spend much money doing it.
Yeah. See, I was going to say it's really weird that Marvel and DC haven't tried to appropriate, stuff from Chronicle, because maybe not so much Marvel, because they don't have, like, it's weird that they're a bit more, poppy, a bit more colourful, a bit more vibrant. With this being a lot more grounded, it feels a lot more like how the Snyderverse kind of works. Or it would fit a bit more snugly. So I would think, I'm sure, I don't know, there's countless comics out there. I'm sure there would be something that's, comic booky, that's basically Chronicle, that they could just kind of be like, let's just rip off that. Because if I remember rightly, this movie was successful. It made a profit, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that's not difficult given that it was quite low budget, but no, it did definitely make some decent returns. Well, I mean, it was a career starter for, two of the actors, the director and the writer. It was like, it did launch them at Hollywood careers.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen when movies fail. Even if the movie just fails because of marketing, it doesn't really matter. They'll still just blame the filmmaker. But yeah, it has, like I say, had a kind of influence, but it's hard to say, because there are certain things that I could point at in other movies that feel reminiscent of it, but it's hard to say how much they were influenced by it, or it's just that general trend, because the thing is, this movie did speak to a general trend in the way things were shot. Like I say, the found footage thing had been a thing for a little while by that point. But you could point to things like how you mentioned the Snyderverse, the way some of the fight scenes are shot don't feel a million miles away from something like Chronicle. I'm thinking particularly of the Man of Steel, Superman versus Zod fight.
Yep. I mean, it almost, like, I know it doesn't do this, but it feels literally like there is a scene where Superman crashes through a wall with Zod, and as they crash through the wall, they use security camera footage. I'm certain that doesn't happen. I know Superman crashes through a wall into a building with Zod. I think that's right before he has to kill him.
I can see why you'd kind of think that as well, because the thing is, the whole thing's shot in that documentary style anyway. Like, yes, it's not found footage, but it's shot like it.
They totally, that in that fight as well, they do kind of act like some of those shots could be people like watching from really far away, like, oh my god, this is what it would be like if Superman was fighting.
Now, like I say, it's hard to say how much you can attribute that to Chronicle necessarily, because it was a trend. I mean, hell, do you remember that Battlestar Galactica series? That was shot like it, and that was shot in space. And like they shot that like it was documentary footage or like found footage when they were shooting the space battles. By the way, suck a dick. I fucking hate the Battlestar Galactica that remake series.
Holy
Fuck
shit!
It.
I
hate it. I hate it.
Wow.
Hey, let's take a fun show and make it fucking not.
Yeah, but the fun show still exists. Come on, I think they did all right. I think they did all right with it.
I think it was
I can get yourself
a perfect case of what was happening in that period of time, which was let's take existing properties and make them grimy and real. And
there you go. Blame the Dark Knight, bro.
And as I said in Darkman, the legacy of the Dark Knight trilogy is not good.
Yeah.
It has led to bad things. I don't like that general trend. It didn't really start with the Dark Knight. It started before that, to be fair. Let's take fun things and just strip everything out until it's kind of grey. And
it is interesting how again we're sidetracking a little bit, but I'm just thinking of how, you know, the different approaches of pulling out silly elements from comic book movies. You have in the Batman movies, you know, they try to pull out all the silliness and make it very serious. Oh, well, this is how he really would have trained and blah, blah, blah. And then I got a smash cut to a bit earlier. We have the first X-Men movie where they were like, what do you want, yellow spandex? Because they realised, we can't really make this work. Let's put an equally as ridiculous thing, everyone in leather like jumpsuits, which the actors complained about. They're like, I can't even like move my legs. Like they have to try and hop like a 2-foot wall, and they're all like, how are we going to do this, guys?
Hey, look, you haven't been in a sci-fi movie until you've had to wear a ridiculously restrictive costume.
And then do a fight scene. But yeah, I think in the overall landscape, I think Chronicle would fit pretty well in like DC's current lineup. I'm sure there would be some, you know, down to earth, maybe street level heroes that have kind of these kind of powers or something like that. That could work quite nicely.
Although with that said, and linking that to what I was saying about things like Battlestar Galactica, things like the Dark Knight trilogy, even though again I do like the first two Dark Knight films, but this works for Chronicle, which was an original IP. I mean, it didn't work for the Fantastic Four though, did it? Because the problem is when you take, and I mean it's not like that's the only problem that movie had, but I feel like when you take this and try to apply it to something that already exists, that already has certain expectations, that's already got a kind of tone, to just apply it to that feels kind of cheap.
Yeah.
Now that's not to say I'm not surprised they haven't done it, because they can do it and it'd just be bad. I mean if we're talking about DC movies, not many of them are good, and the ones that are good are the ones that are nothing like the Snyderverse stuff. You know, like Shazam, which was actually a really fucking fun, good movie.
It's their best movie.
Yeah,
I think it's their best movie.
Yeah,
it felt to me spiritually like I was watching a Spider-Man 2 or something.
Yeah,
because I was like, the movie's fun, it's enjoyable, there's cool stuff, there's like some actual real personal stuff. I'm gonna get distracted again. Like, let's not. But okay. Like, I like Shazam. Maybe one day we'll podcast that.
Yeah, I'd actually enjoy that. Okay, so I guess closing thoughts. Like I say, very good movie. Yes, it does have some parts where it's aged a little bit, and yes, some of it is a little on the nose. But you know what? Okay, just because it's not perfect doesn't mean it's not a very good movie. And it is a very good movie, and I think especially if you enjoy anime and you enjoy a kind of unique twist on those sort of elements that you commonly find in anime, you'll get a kick out of watching it because it's got a lot of that.
Yeah.
Not just Akira, just in general, it has a very anime feel to it, which is fun. It's like I say, the characters are really well written. I think Andrew is, despite being narcissistic and selfish a lot of the time and cruel, he is actually a pretty likable protagonist.
Yeah.
And you definitely feel for him even when he's being cruel, because you understand why he's doing it. And that's not an easy thing to do, I think, with a character.
Yeah.
It's very easy to fuck that up. I think that, like I say, the way that the character dynamics work, the way that the story kind of builds in this kind of meandering way with these then exponential problems that kind of build up towards the end.
Yeah.
It moves very fast. The film's paced very well. I'm not sure how long it is. It doesn't feel very
long. I think it might... No, it can't be 2 hours. It's got to be shorter than that.
Either way, it's a well-paced movie. It's far from boring.
Yeah. It is really fun. I enjoy the fact that the movie gives us time to kind of just have powers. I think restraint. The movie has a lot of restraint. I'm going back to the plot of where'd they get their powers. I think a less effective script would have focused on all of their issues and how do we solve where we got our powers and like what do we do with them, blah blah blah, who's trying to get us to use them or something, the government, blah blah blah. That crap would clutter up so much time. I like the fact that the movie is about 3 guys kind of falling in, getting powers together. They then hang out. You know, it's kind of like going, what would you do if you had powers? Yeah, you know, just muck around with your friends. We're like 18 years old. Like, this is kind of fun. This is cool. Blah, blah, blah. Learn a bit about their characters. So you got a lot of nice character moments between them. In fact, that was one of the things I was going to say. I think it might have been, I don't know if it's foreshadowing. Nah, it's not foreshadowing. When Andrew saves Steve because he gets kind of hit by a plane.
Yeah.
I think he was just too close. But I think that was kind of cool because he saves Steve and then he's then the kind of cause for his death. It happens while they're both in the sky. You know, I think that they're kind of mirroring in some kind of way.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of great scenes like that I just think this is really good. I really like this.
I think it's partly as well I think it speaks to that sometimes limitations breed creativity.
Yeah. Art from adversity.
Because it was a low budgeted film, and like I say, it was originally planned to be an even lower budgeted film. They couldn't rely on stuff that would require a ton of actors, stuff that would require huge big budget fights. Like, yes, there is a kind of big, kind of impressive fight, but I could have easily have seen it being more scaled back and the film being basically as effective.
Yeah.
So I feel like probably in the original script it probably would have been a more basic thing that probably wouldn't have been done in a super crowded area.
I think that's probably... you know what? That's actually... I didn't think of that, but that's probably exactly what it is. Why isn't there all this government stuff? What, you got government set money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the film is shot just on location. And basic things like, just houses and things like that. There are no big impressive sets, really. I think literally the most impressive set that they have is like a hospital. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm not talking about like the big fight scene, which is out in the open, but that's clearly where like 90% of the budget went.
I think that probably got put in maybe after they got picked up. They're like, hey, we got picked up. Like, there's probably going to be a fight scene, but it probably would have been small without wall crashing and super stuff. They're
Yeah, I
probably like,
imagine.
hey, we can fucking kind of go all in with this. Like, so yeah, I think that could have been where
Yeah, well, I mean, going back
the
to like
limitations.
the anime influence, I mean, Dragon Ball Z, most of the fights just happen out in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, they've proven that you can make that pretty fucking engaging, even when 90% of it's just people standing there going, "Ah!"
Yep. Hell, like Tetsuo and Canada fight in literally the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, it's just them.
Yeah.
And an orbital satellite.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, really great movie. I honestly am like, please watch the movie. It's just fucking wicked.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely recommend. Your rating?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know how to rate this one. I guess I would rate this movie 4 perfectly removed teeth.
Nice. Okay. 4 perfectly removed teeth. Until next time, Ian Beale.
Ian Beale.